It was my mother's 70th birthday. And I wanted to do something special for Mom, but she lives in Atlanta and I live in Cleveland. And so we flew to Atlanta to be with Mom. And imagine on Saturday going and trying to get not one same-day spa appointment, but 2 same-day spa appointments. Most of the people that I called just kind of said, "Ha, we've been sold out for 2 months, click." And I kept calling and calling, and finally I called that one final spa, and Sylvia picked up the phone. And Sylvia said, "We would love to have you and your mother for her special day. Yes, come in." And I said, "Really? Can I come too?" Yeah. And she said, "Yes, you can. We'd love to have you." So I said, "Well, can we both get facials?" And she said, "Well, because of the clinicians we have on hand, one of you can have a massage and one of you can have a facial." I said, "Oh, that's fine." She said, "Or you can both have both." Really? Sign me up. I did not ask her how much that was going to cost me. 45 minutes later, my mother and I walked into the spa, and Sylvia led my mother over to a chair that already had happy birthday balloons on it and a card signed by the staff. Sylvia brought us our lemonade, and then she went in the back, and on a silver platter, she put crackers and grapes and cheese and fruit and cookies and chocolate. I liked Sylvia. She handed it to my mother and she said, "It is my privilege and an honor to serve you." Sylvia then went in the back and she fixed up an identical plate for me. And she handed it to me and she said, "It is my privilege and an honor to serve you." And for the next 3 hours, my mother and I did not pick up our purse, put down our purse, put on our shoes, or take off our shoes. We were pampered. And it was phenomenal. And that is not what we talked about on the way to the car. My mother looked at me, she said, "Did you notice the bathroom?" I did. Every single time my mother and I used the bathroom, the wastebasket was empty. It would not have taken away from our magical experience at this amazing spa had there been some Kleenex or napkins in the garbage can. But the fact that it was that attention to detail that made the experience even better. So that's what we're here today to talk about, is how can we look at the things that we're doing in our lives and how can we make our own wastebasket super clean? By paying attention to details. Mother Teresa once said, "We are more starved for appreciation than we are for bread." And we see this not only in our personal lives, but we see it in our businesses as well. And it basically comes down to 2 words. And those 2 words would be? Okay, one more time. And those 2 words would be? Thank you. You're welcome. This is the only appropriate answer to the words "thank you." Because what are some of the other things that we get to hear?
No problem.
No problem. Uh-huh. What else? Whatever. No worries. What about "it was nothing"? When somebody says thank you, they are giving you a gift. When you say "it was nothing," you are taking that gift and you are throwing it back in their face. So we need to start completing that cycle of appreciation simply by acknowledging gratitude. So we have a fun little activity that I like to call the "Thank You, You're Welcome" exercise. And this is exactly how it works. You will be sitting next to your partner. You will look at each other and it looks like this. "Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, you're welcome." And then you'll switch. "Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, you're welcome." If there's 3 at a table, odd number, that's fine too. The person with the shortest hair goes first. Do it now.
I did not. You did too.
Okay. Come on back. Did some of you notice that your welcome muscle was a little rusty? I did this activity when I spoke in Atlanta last week, and one of the girls at the table actually said, no problem. So start to be aware of the way that you answer, which leads me to one more tangent. Okay, so somebody comes up to you and says, Mayor, that is a beautiful tie. Correct response?
Thank you.
But what do we say instead? Oh, this whole thing? I've had this forever. I love you. At least your hair looks great today. Oh, no, it doesn't need to be cut. We make excuses, don't we? When somebody gives us a sincere compliment, the only appropriate response is thank you. Thank you is a complete sentence. So when somebody gives you that sincere compliment, say thank you. And then shut up. Can we do that? Little quiz. When somebody says thank you, you will say. When somebody gives you a sincere compliment, you will say. And then you will. Oh, thank you. Yes! See, that was the extra bonus part. So now why do I go all over the country and hopefully soon all over the world talking about the power of gratitude? It started in 2009 simply after keeping a gratitude journal with friends. We opened up a Facebook thread, and every day we would write down 3 things that we were grateful for. Did it every day, held each other accountable. Within a very short period of time, I noticed that things in my life were starting to change. I was actually in medical sales at the time, and customers that I hadn't talked to for months were calling me, hey, can you come in and sell us some Hibiclens? I will be right there. There were 2 large facilities that I had been calling on for almost 5 years that closed almost effortlessly. My husband started being more verbally appreciative. It certainly wasn't because I was keeping the house any cleaner. All of these things were going on, and the only thing I had changed was that gratitude practice. So that's where the research began. And after reading several thousand white papers and research reports and taking programs and reading books on this power, there's so much science behind it that it may surprise you. Because we know that it feels good to be thanked, and we know that it feels good to say thanks. But there's so much more to this. In some of my half-day workshops, I mean, we really play with it, from the health benefits to the relation benefits. But Dr. Robert Emmons probably did one of my favorite research studies, and that he took a random group of students, divided them into 3. The first group, he had them write down all the things that they were grateful for. Second group, all the troubles, all the hassles, all the things that bugged them. Third group simply recorded the day's events. They were the control group. And what he found after 10 weeks is the gratitude group was 25% happier. Lisa, how could you tell they were actually 25% happier? Well, what they did is this journaling process beforehand, because they wanted to see how the people got along with each other, headaches, backaches, all of that, so that they could separate the chronically happy people from, let's just call them, the chronically not so happy people, and establish that baseline. But he found that people in the gratitude group exercised on average an hour and a half more than the other 2 groups. They complained less often. They had fewer physical ailments. And then he interviewed people that were associated with the gratitude group and actually found that they noticed a difference, that the gratitude group was more emotionally available. They were nicer to be around. So it's that simple practice of keeping a gratitude journal. And I'm not saying, because you're saying, oh, I don't have another moment to add something to my day. If you have 2 to 5 minutes for yourself of just writing down 5 sentences, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for, writing that down, because you're using so many more senses. You're feeling the pen in your hand. You're seeing the words on paper. You're hearing the words and being able to get to that gratitude. And it starts to change our perspective and change our relationships. The Institute of Heart Math, actually, being in healthcare, You know, we have cold and flu season is coming up soon, so we want to know, okay, yes, we wash our hands over and over and over again, and we start to choose positive emotions. Because the Institute of Heart Math has shown that for every 5 minutes you spend in anger, you actually reduce the effectiveness of your immune system for up to 6 hours. Those same 5 minutes, however, spent in compassion actually elevate the performance of your immune system for up to 6 hours. So we look at how we can choose that positive emotion. Instead of you have that coworker that is just getting on your every last nerve, and you are frustrated and you want to choke that person. Oh yeah, okay, I'm talking to the crowd over here. Do you think that that person is holding the same regrets, so holding the same frustration about you? No. In most cases, they are living rent-free in our heads. So if we can find out how to let that go, figuring it out, why are they acting like that, it will start to make it better. And our relationships with others. Again, I have found in my own research that 100% of the people in my life have failed Mind Reading 101. So unless you take the time to actually tell that person how you feel about them, you assume, but they don't always know. It reminds me of the story. There was this couple, they were celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary, and the wife was just sobbing. She was so upset. And the husband said, honey, what's wrong? Today's our anniversary. You know, you should be happy. She said, you never tell me that you love me. He said, listen, I told you 25 years ago, if anything changes, I'll let you know. Don't do that. Because, you know, Justin gets to see this all the time in his profession, but think about it. When is the time that we say the nicest things about people? It's at their eulogy, isn't it? We're getting up there and we're just extolling the virtues of John. He's laying out flat, not hearing a word. Okay, well, he's hearing a word, but whatever. I think that it should be illegal to ever say something at somebody's funeral that you did not tell them while they were on the planet. And I have been carrying that belief around me with a long time. So you know how sometimes when you say things over and over and over again, you have the opportunity to prove it? Several years ago, my first husband was losing his battle with stage 4 pancreatic and liver cancer. They had given Jeff 6 months to live, and 18 months later, he was finally ready to go. And Jeff and I had still maintained our friendship, so I was one of the people that he called. And as we were talking and we said our goodbyes, it was a short conversation. Then I hung up the phone, and I asked myself the question, did I tell Jeff everything that I would have if I was reading his eulogy? And I found out that I didn't. And so I had two little opposing voices. The little devil on this shoulder was saying, oh, you don't want to call him back. You don't want to bother him. I mean, he's going to be dead soon. He's got enough things to worry about. I know, the devil is very sarcastic on this shoulder. The angel was saying, you know what, though? There's more to say. So I picked up the phone and I called Jeff, and we had an amazing conversation. We had closure. And a week and a half later, at the age of 52, Jeff passed away. And I share this story from time to time. Sometimes it occurs to me that somebody in my audience needs to hear it. So I shared the story, and a gentleman came up to me afterwards, and he was sharing with me that he just recently lost his wife after a prolonged illness. And she never wanted to admit that she was dying, so he never had that conversation. And to this day, he regrets it. So one of the homework assignments that you have, see, you didn't know that you were coming here and getting homework, is all of you were given a thank you note. When you tell somebody you appreciate them, you create a beautiful memory. When you write it down, you create a treasure. So ask yourself the question today, who needs to hear from me? It may be your best friend, it may be one of your kids, it may be your spouse, but somebody's going to pop into your head. And take a minute and write that note. and you will create a treasure. Now, at one of my women's retreats, I did this, and I saw a woman a couple days later, and she said, I just have to tell you what happened. She said, I wrote this to my husband. I left it on the counter. He's like, well, what's this? Oh, just something I wrote you. He opened it and read it, and he folded it, and he put it in his wallet because she gave him a treasure. It's not like this other story that I saw online, so you know it's true. There was a group of women that were going to a retreat to try to enhance their relationships with their spouses. And one of the things that they were supposed to do was to send their spouse a text. You know, honey, I love you. Thank you so much for being you. You know, something with the appropriate mushiness in it. Hit send, wait for the response. The responses ranged from, who the hell is this? To, how much money do you need? To how much damage was done to the car. So if this is kind of foreign for you and you know that people are going to be like, oh, what do you want? You can actually start with what I call the apology approach. And that, you know, honey, I know that I haven't been expressing my appreciation to you. Maybe it's your team at work. You know, team, you guys totally rock. And I know that I have not been letting you know that as often as I should. And I want to let you know that starting today, I'm making a concentrated effort to change that. Because gratitude does. It changes our perspective when we start to look for the good, no matter what is going on in our lives. It changes our health when we choose those positive emotions over the negative emotions. And then it truly enhances our relationships with others as we let them know how much they mean to us. So I started my story today with a story about my mom. And I want to end with a story about my dad. It was August of 2011. And my husband and I were just on our way to go downtown to see, they had the set for the Avengers. And Scott and I really wanted to see how, you know, aliens had destroyed downtown Cleveland. So we're just about running out the door, and the phone rings. And it is a gentleman I do not know. And he said, I'm with your dad, and he doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know where he's at. Can you please come over and let me know what to do? And from previous experience, I said, hang up the phone right now and call 911. My dad's having a stroke. Slam down the phone. Scott and I raced to Marymount and actually beat the ambulance there. My 70-year-old active, social, happy father was wheeled in, paralyzed on one side and unable to speak. And he stayed at Marymount, and then he went to Parma to their intense rehab. And as he worked with the physical therapist and he worked with the speech therapist and he was getting stronger, he was still having trouble with his communication. His stroke was on his left side and working on his ability to speak and reason. But he always came back to two sentences. When he couldn't get the words out, he would say, I just want to let you know how much I love you. And he said, thank you. He said thank you to everyone, from the nurses who gave him his medication to the people that cleaned up his room, over and over and over, smile and thank you. When he was moved to Royalton Woods Assisted Living, again, every person there, he continually thanked for their kindness. And at Royalton Woods on February 14th, every year, the residents actually vote for the King and Queen of Hearts. And this is voted on by the residents. I am very happy to say, February of 2012, my father won by a landslide, making me a princess. But it comes down to our very essence of love and gratitude and making sure that the people around you know that. How clean is your wastebasket? How much attention to detail do you pay to the people that you work with, that you see every day? Oh, they know I appreciate them. Let them know. The handwritten note, the verbal smile, the verbal words, the smile, letting people know. That's how we create a culture of appreciation in the workplace, We've gotten so far away from that because we've just been so busy we forget. Today, start thinking about how much attention to detail. Start paying attention to the people that mean things in your life, to your spouse, to your kids, to the people that you work with, that you see every day, and acknowledge those people. Because it absolutely, positively makes a difference. So when somebody says thank you, you will say, "You're welcome." When somebody gives you a compliment, you will say, "Thank you." And then you will, "Shut up." I am Lisa Ryan, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.